see my mom going through this tough time and she never gave up. So when I joined university, I thought of applying for help to ensure my smooth running of my education. I got a notification from HELB. They sent me a message and told me that I'm a potential beneficiary of Absa Scholarship Fund, and they gave me the link to the website for application and the whole process. I never had to deal with the last minute struggle about rushing, clearing my fee balance, not sitting for examination because I have fee balances. I am in third year currently and I'm in my last semester. I would like to thank Absa so much for this opportunity. Same way they stepped in my life and changed it, same way I do also one day want to just touch someone's life. Any opportunity presented to you, take advantage of it. It does not matter whether it's the 10th opportunity, the 9th, it doesn't matter. Just take advantage of it.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Absa Kenya's Sustainability Report launch. I'm Victoria Rubadiri. Of course, we're doing this in tandem with our online audience joining us on YouTube and on LinkedIn. That's on the Absa Kenya pages. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, today is about Absa Kenya telling its continuous story of how it wants to become a sustainable company. And of course, it's opening up the books, essentially, to tell us about its environmental, its social, and governance risks. Now, the hashtag for today is Force for Good. So beyond it telling us what they're doing, it wants to extend the challenge to all of you here. So if you noticed on your tables, there is what looks like a pencil, which it actually is. So if you pick it up, have you ever seen a pencil that you can plant? Probably not, right? So what Absa wants you to do is every time you use this pencil, up until its last, you'll notice there's some seeds at the end of that pencil, right? Yeah, mesmerized. I was too when I first saw this. And you'll see the name of the particular plant. Mine says brinjal, or whatever yours says, that it will actually come to grow into. Hopefully this can get your home and kitchen garden started. But this is just a small gesture that you can actually take into your daily life. Now, I'm not alone. I'm actually joined by two co-hosts, the sign language interpreters, David Agondoa and Anne Wangeshi, who will be helping us throughout this session today. All right, so let's get started. Our first speaker is Caroline Kendi, Absa Kenya Chief Marketing Officer, to help set the stage. Let's give her a hearty round of applause.
Good morning, everybody. I'm usually off the cuff, but today I will be, I'll read. So, the Secretary, Administration, Ministry of Forestry, John Elugata, the Chairman, Absa Bank, PLC, Mr. Charles Moshene, members of Absa Bank, PLC's Board of Directors present, our Managing Director and CEO, Mr. Abdi Muhammad, members of the Country Management Committee, CMC present, fellow Absa colleagues, our valued partners and friends, and distinguished guests. Good morning once again. All protocols observed. Let me begin by warmly welcoming all of you to this launch of the Absa Kenya Sustainability Report, which marks a truly proud moment and exciting day for all of us at Absa. Thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to be with us this morning. It is something we do not take for granted. This is a significant day and a moment for us at Absa as we take time to reflect how we as a brand and as a business conduct our business and how this impacts and the impact we are making in our communities. We believe in being a force for good at Absa. And this means not only being a force for good with regards to selling and delivering products and services that our customers need, but actually being relevant and actually being part of the communities which we serve. We are particularly cognizant of the enormous responsibility to help all our stakeholders become more environmentally conscious as we transition towards a low-carbon economy. The report we are unveiling today demonstrates our commitment to prioritizing business activities that have the most positive environmental, social, and economic impact. The report also opens up to be held accountable to the things we say and will do as an organization. This is why we are inviting you today as our partners to walk this journey with us, and more importantly, to extend an invitation to work with us as we become a truly sustainable business. You will also get to see the impact of the efforts we are making towards investing in people and their capabilities, be they our colleagues, some of them are here, our clients, our suppliers, and communities, as we are to work together as partners to bring our strategic ambitions to life. In line with our purpose and our role as a financial institution, we have a long-term interest in empowering Kenya's and the continent's progress. As you may have observed over the last few days, months, and actually this year, we have made significant commitments that demonstrate our dedication to continuously unlock opportunities for our customers and find innovative solutions that empower our clients' ambitions. Collectively, our purpose journey is one of becoming customer-obsessed, acknowledging the strength of our people and delivering results sustainably with an African heartbeat. With those few remarks, it is now my pleasure to invite the Managing Director and CEO of Absa PLC, Abdi Mohammed, to make his remarks. Karibu, Abdi.
Thank you so much. Are inextricably linked. And really the purpose of the Absa Group is empowering Africa's tomorrow together, one story at a time. And when we talk about empowering, when we talk about tomorrow, tomorrow speaks to the whole agenda of sustainability, that the actions we take today and the programs we put in place today have an impact both now and also in the future. And really that is the underpinning message of our sustainability agenda. The primary, this is a primary anchor of our shared value approach, which recognizes the interconnected nature of the needs of society and the bank's own interests and needs. As a financial institution, we have immense opportunity through our financing and intermediation role to influence and encourage sustainable practices in the economy. This includes, among other areas, energy efficiency, climate smart agriculture, renewable energy, green buildings, and similar initiatives. And we are focused on using our unique capabilities and the influence that we have as a financial institution to influence the execution of a well-grounded sustainability agenda. As a responsible financial institution, we remain committed to ensuring that we operate our own business sustainably. That is, first of all, starting with ourselves as an organization, our buildings, our teams, our practices, the initiatives that we do. Doing in that regard. And of course, the local boards, including the board of Absa Kenya, apply themselves to the country-specific sustainability needs, and I'm sure the chairman will probably comment on that later on. So that connectivity between the group and the scorecard that is driven right from the group level, and what the local board and the local management put in place to drive that local sustainability agenda. Looking at our current portfolio, for example, about 20% of our loans and advances are potentially eligible as sustainable finance. This year alone, we have advanced about 60 billion Kenya shillings in sustainable finance, comprising of the components that I mentioned earlier, green finance, as well as inclusive finance, which is another very important component of our sustainability agenda. That is helping SMEs, women-led businesses, the youth agenda, and so on, and ensuring more and more people are included in the financial services sector. And therefore, you will continue to see us significantly expanding our investment in this space as we scale our support for sustainable development across all our economic sectors. And that is ranging from agriculture, manufacturing, energy, and many of these other sectors. But also when you look at the segments of the economy. So 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were attending the launch of Safaricom's sustainability agenda. And one of the elements we talked about there is the sustainability-linked loan, which is a first in this market of 15 billion that was advanced to Safaricom. And we were privileged as Absa to be one of the 4 banks that participated in that transaction. So going to the highest level in terms of the corporate sector, but also a lot of lending and support to SMEs and smaller businesses, and you will hear about some of that later in the panel. So it's all sectors, all segments, and ensuring that we are participating. In line with this, our ambition is to double this figure to more than 120 billion in the next 3 years, and that's already locked into the planning process. And you can therefore expect to see a lot more bolder activity from ourselves in the days ahead. In this journey, we are encouraged by the strong partnership that we have built both in the public sector as well as the private sector and the non-governmental sector. Our partners inspire and encourage us to go on. And just as an example, in the UN Global Compact, and we have today Martin Ochieng, our chairman, who is also the CEO of Sasini. We also have Judy, the chief executive of the UN Global Compact. We encourage and support each other, and we share the good sustainability stories that are there in the market. And we just ensure that we drive the corporate sector and the private sector in Kenya to adopt sustainability as a way of life. At this juncture, I would like to thank some of our key partners, and there are many more that are here today, including Safaricom, Sasini, the UN Global Compact, IFC, Melanin Capital, and many others that are represented here today, because the sustainability journey is wider than one company or one entity. It requires partnership and it requires a collective approach. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, we do recognize that every action that we take today has a consequence for a meaningful tomorrow. As this sustainability report demonstrates, we have remained steadfast as Absa in delivering on our commitments, and we've taken a long-term mindset, ensuring that we are stewards of a sustainably better world. As I end my comments, I would like to affirm that while we have made significant progress on our sustainability journey, we are committed to continue mainstreaming ESG and related issues in our strategy. We look forward to reporting on even greater success from our efforts in the coming days. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to leave you all with a quote from the late Kofi Annan, may he rest in peace, former Secretary General of the United Nations, and I quote, "Our biggest challenge in this new century is to take an idea that seems abstract, which is the idea of sustainable development, and turn it into a reality for all of the world's people." And I think that is the task that faces all of us, and that is the task that, the journey that Absa is on. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I would now like to take this opportunity to welcome our chairman, Mr. Charles Mshene, to come and make a few remarks. Karibu, Chairman.
The earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. Now, those words that are attributed to a famous actress, in my opinion, capture key messages that we should be thinking about at a forum like this. That we have a responsibility to protect Mother Earth and to protect her for posterity. And in doing so, we should not only seek to minimize or even reverse the harm that we and our forefathers have caused, but we should also be an active force for good by harnessing the goodness in each and every one of us. Our chief guest, John from the ministry representing the PS, all our invited guests, the panelists, our colleagues, and those joining us online. Let me add my words of welcome to each and every one of you and express my appreciation that you are able to create the time to join us as we launch the Sustainability Report for 2022. Now, this report comes on the back of our Climate Financing Disclosure Report, which we released in August of this year, further demonstrating our unwavering commitment to the crucial sustainability agenda. As a board, we remain resolute and clear in our mandate as far as the continuous integration of sustainability principles in all aspects of our operations is concerned. We are thus intent on continuing to prove our commitment to living our beliefs and propelling our business forward on a path of sustainable growth, and today's event is a testament to this ongoing commitment. Ladies and gentlemen, as I believe Abdi mentioned, 3 years ago, we refreshed our sustainability agenda and publicly made 13 commitments as the core of that shared value strategy. Since then, we have been relentlessly implementing these commitments, starting with creating a great work environment for our people, equipping them with the skills that they need to propel this business into the future, and in inculcating a collaborative culture that values deep and rewarding relationships with other stakeholders, recognizing that even before we start impacting on society and the environment, we've got to start ourselves. We've got to reform ourselves before we can seek to reform others. And then as part of this agenda, and in acknowledgement of the importance of climate change and the urgent need for global action to avert a climate disaster, we have accelerated our efforts towards improving our green credentials and climate approach, including reducing our carbon footprint and pursuing green funding opportunities. To drive this critical agenda, we are strategically collaborating with a diverse set of partners and stakeholders, and I'm really pleased that a number of them are present in this room this morning. We thank them immensely for continually bringing their financial expertise, contribution to a more sustainable and inclusive economy. Distinguished guests, as a proudly Kenyan corporate citizen, we are convinced that sustainable development is the only true road to achieving the future that we all desire. We take it as our duty of care to create a prosperous and healthy world for the generations that come after us. For this reason, our sustainability agenda is driven right from the top of this institution and permeates all the way to the bottom, with the board recognizing that we have a cardinal obligation to all our stakeholders to consider sustainability when developing our institution's overall strategy and risk management frameworks, as well as to undertake effective supervision of implementation plans in accordance with best practices. The board, through all its committees, thus guides our sustainability agenda. These committees collaborate with the Sustainability Steering Committee, which is a management level committee charged with overseeing the implementation of the bank's sustainability strategy that is centered on the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit. And these three Ps are underpinned by a really important fourth P, which is the corporate purpose that Abdi has so lucidly explained to this audience. Additionally, as with our overall corporate strategy, all employees of the bank are fully onboarded into this journey. We believe that this is not a journey that specific individuals or certain cadres of people within the organization would drive without the buy-in of everybody in the organization. So it's all on board. Ladies and gentlemen, as this report will clearly demonstrate, we have made substantial progress in incorporating sustainability into the heart of our business strategy. As such, all our strategic priorities across our consumer, business, and corporate banking units are inextricably linked to creating shared value for all our diverse stakeholders. In conclusion, let me confirm how immensely proud we are at Absa Kenya for the milestones that we're making in this critical agenda. Granted, there's a lot that remains to be done. We are all at the early stages of this journey. However, we have set off, and I'm confident, to all of us in this room, and even to those following us online, we must recognize that sustainability action is not a choice. It is an imperative. We have the knowledge, the tools, and the moral duty to shape a future that is equitable, responsible, and together we can build a world that thrives for generations. Let us not give our children's children a reason to question why we didn't jump onto the opportunity to build a sustainable future today. So with that, thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen. And now it's my great pleasure to welcome our chief guests, represented here by John from the State Department of Environment and Climate Change, to make his remarks. Karibu, John.
Thank you, Chairman Charles. Like correctly said, my name is Lungata, and I've come to represent the peers from this Department of Environment and Climate Change. On this occasion, he was actually due to come, but as they say, duty called him elsewhere, and he had to send me to share his thoughts with you. And I'm going to read his speech here. This is the Principal Secretary, Engineer Festus Ngeno of the State Department of Environment and Climate Change on this occasion, Wednesday, 25th October 2023, the launch of the Absa Bank Kenya PLC Sustainability Report. The MD and Chief Executive Officer, Absa Bank Kenya, Mr. Abdi Mohammed, key government and private sector representatives present, the leadership and senior management of Absa Bank Kenya, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. The diversity of stakeholders gathered here today for the Absa Sustainability Report launch is truly remarkable. What a great mix. If this meeting were a forest ecosystem, it would be thriving and well-balanced, with a blend of government, the private sector, civil society organizations, international bodies, the media, and industry leaders. It's a fitting representation right here in a forest ecosystem in our capital city we call the Arboretum. Abdi Mohammed, I take this as a good sign that as we unveil the Absa Sustainability Report, we're going to leave this meeting with commitments to boost our goal of planting 15 billion trees by 2032. Sustainability and ecosystem restoration are inseparable. To create shared value for growth, Sustainability Report theme, we must achieve our restoration targets. You cannot do business on a dead planet. Environmental degradation and climate change harm business because Kenya is a nature-based economy. On behalf of the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry, we laud the private sector's enthusiastic response to our call for support in promoting sustainable resource management and driving proactive climate action. As a ministry, we appreciate the critical role played by the environment, climate action, and forestry sector in sustaining life, supporting livelihoods, and driving Kenya's economic transformation agenda. As a result, we are accelerating our actions and implementing an updated strategic plan for 2023-2027. At the core of the delivery plan is the 3P approach, as mentioned by the chairman: people, planet, and profit. As you know, charity begins at home. When it comes to our journey towards ecological restoration, resilience enhancement, and sustainable development, planting a tree is the first and most critical step. We must therefore all embrace tree planting urgently. We can begin in our homes and neighborhoods, plant a fruit tree, help green our local schools, and restore the disappearing forests near our homes. In my constituency, that is the PS's constituency, which borders Southwest Mau, I'm taking on a personal initiative and extending a warm invitation to Absa to join us by supporting our upcoming road run for forest restoration in Southwest Mau, adopt a forest block, acquire tree seedlings from communities around our planet. To plant and grow 15 billion trees, we will distribute 1,000 tons of seeds to 18 seed centers established by the Kenya Forestry Research Institute. The centers will produce 15 billion seedlings between now and 2032. The seedlings will be grown on 10.6 million hectares of degraded forests and rangelands. This will take our total national tree cover beyond 30%, surpassing all our present obligations and placing us firmly on course to restoring ecological integrity. This translates to 320,000 direct jobs created over the next 10 years under the special presidential program on the accelerated restoration of forests and rangelands, which provides opportunities for the participation of youth and women in seedling production, tree growing, tree planting and maintenance, thinning and pruning and maintenance of forests. As I conclude, allow me to quote our president's words during the launch of education and collaboration by all stakeholders, and I look forward to walking the journey together with you. Asanteni sana.
One more round of applause for our chief guest, Mr. John Elungata from the ministry. Think about it. And so when you think about incorporating sustainable practices, it's a non-negotiable. We have to get it done starting now. And of course, that is the perfect segue into our first panel discussion that we'll be having on creating shared value. We heard from the chairman about the triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and profit. But before we do that, let's look at the S in ESG in terms of what Absa Kenya has been doing in some social initiatives. I want you to direct your attention to the screens right now as we look at some computer donations by Absa Kenya.
The reason why we came here as Absa today is because as an institution, we've got a lot of things that we do primarily within the provision of financial services to people. But we also have to be responsible for our communities and ensuring that our communities are developing holistically. And so today we came here to officially commission this computer lab. It is one out of 72 computer labs that we're installing in different schools and learning institutions across the country. This is a school that hasn't had a computer lab before. They've never taught computers here. And really, this is the difference.
These computers are going to boost the enrollment of the school because many parents want schools where computer is taught. After Form 4, our girls will be able to fit very well outside there.
Transformation the Absa Bank is bringing is actually very important to education. Apart from being a financial institution, it is a beacon of hope to the girls.
Nataka niseme shukrani sana. Hiyo kazi umetuletea leo ya kutupatia kompyuta hapa. Hiyo ni kusema kwamba hii dunia tunaenda si dunia ya zamani. Carry high your flag. Make sure people know when Captain looking at you from the other end, they see the flag of Kipsangui girls.
We believe that connecting students with computers, the capability of them to learn digital skills, that once we invest in these young people, we invest in the future of our country. And you need to look at it for yourself to say, how do I become the best I can become?
Because of you, Absa, our girls will not struggle. Absa is the way to go, and you have also seen that the community has embraced Absa as a bank.
All right, so we're just about to jump into our first panel discussion on creating shared value through sustainable finance for people and planet. I'd like to introduce my panel really quickly. Joining me on stage is Roslyn Njino from the Kenya Bankers Association. She's a senior sustainability specialist, and she's been in the sustainable field for quite some time and has worked on various strategic programs on behalf of the banking industry. Now get this, through her efforts, over 41,000 bank staff have been reached with the knowledge of how to look beyond their financial returns and factor in socio-environmental concerns in their lending practices and operations. Can we give her a round of applause? Next, we have Melanie Keita, who was named by Forbes in 2021 30 under 30 list. She is the CEO and co-founder of Melanin Capital. It's a Pan-African impact investment banking platform that's based right here in Kenya. France, and Germany, and focuses on supporting early stage companies to become investable. Round of applause for her. Thank you, Melanie. We also have Dio Onyango, who is Specialist, Climate Finance, Financial Institutions Group at the International Finance Corporation, or IFC. And prior to IFC, he was the MD, head of onshore wind and hybrid power solutions for sub-Saharan Africa at GE Renewable Energy. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Let's give him a round of applause. And last but not least, Elizabeth Wesuna, Absa Bank Business Banking Director. She has vast experience and skills in strategic leadership, development, and growth of SMEs, commercial banking business in Africa, and women in business growth advisor. Thank you for joining us, Elizabeth. Fantastic. So I see we've hit the 2/3 gender rule. Deo, as the sole gentleman, can I start with you? Okay. I think just to give context, let's go into what sustainable finance actually is, just as a definition.
It's on?
Yep,
Yeah.
it's on.
Good. So sustainable finance is focused on integrating environmental, social, and governance principles and factors into all aspects of decision-making, business practices, and investment strategies. What it really looks at is quite broad. It looks at climate change, it looks at labor practices, competitive behavior, consumer protection. So it's a really broad area. And in order to kind of frame it, maybe I'll also give another definition, which is climate finance. So we sometimes have it as climate finance and sustainable finance, and we look at it interchangeably, but they're not really the same. So climate finance really focus on two main things. The first thing is really to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. That's where you hear the word of mitigation quite a lot. And so it's really focused on reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. And at the same time, it really focuses on creating more resilience to the impacts of climate change. And that's the other word that you hear a lot of, which is adaptation. So when you think about it, sustainable finance is really the broadest. It looks at all aspects of how you focus on your investment strategies and your decision making that supports sustainable development across the board. When coming in today, I chose climate action, and I'm sure you all chose different bands, and you can see the SDGs are around here. So sustainable finance is really focused on all financing decisions and focus that addresses all of the SDGs that you see around here. From a banking perspective and what it is that the opportunities that this provides, if you think at the reason why Absa, and you've heard from the seniors of leadership of the institution and what they're looking to do, from a banking perspective, from IFCs, there's been a study, a very recent study that identified that all aspects of sustainable finance can lead to about 23 trillion of opportunity for investment, for operations. And which are out of that study, there are 5 main sectors that were identified, and these are the sectors that are responsible for 90% of all greenhouse gas emissions. So the first one is energy. Second is in cities and our kind of urban infrastructure, transportation, manufacturing, but more importantly for the African context is around agriculture, food, and land use. And when you think about that, you can see that this can be fully integrated into the operations of our financial institutions, and really speaks to why Absa has made this a very intentional opportunity, because when you think about agriculture, think about all of the supply chains, the farmers, the cooperatives. When you think about cities, think about residential buildings, our homes, the commercial buildings that we have. And recently, to show Absa's intention, IFC just did a transaction in South Africa of $250 million that's directly focused only on green building. And this is about the intentionality of making sure that the food, shelter, clothing, shelter is a very key part of our survival in this world. And so focusing on that, and it does contribute a lot to greenhouse gas emissions. So really driving financial flows to really address green buildings as such. So in broad terms, that's sustainable financing as well as climate finance and what the differentiator is. Thank you.
Okay. Elizabeth, let me bring you in. When you look at that full spectrum of climate finance to finance inclusion, and now bringing in excluded groups, what is compelling banks? What are the drivers to get them into lending to more excluded groups?
Thanks for that question. And banks are increasingly being compelled to go this direction because it's the right thing to do. It's not just a nice thing to do, it's the right thing to do to make sure that we have financial inclusion across the board. Government has also come in to, create mandates and policies that encourage organizations such as ours to participate in this financial inclusion direction or conversation. When I say it's the right thing to do also, it speaks about making sure that we create an environment that is inclusive of people who normally are unbanked or underbanked for that matter. And therefore, if you look at it from a government's perspective, we're also looking at how do you ensure that we have an environment that can continue in terms of economic growth, because by banks being able to come into this conversation and support in financial inclusion, then we're speaking to the fact that we're encouraging the government and the environment that we have to be more inclusive as far as economic growth of the country. But then, even then, we look at how do we then ensure that we also support the sustainability SDG goals. It's a lot in my mouth. SDG goals number 10, which really speaks to, reduce inequalities within and between countries. So it's the right thing to do, not just a nice thing to do. But from an Absa perspective, we then look and say, what have we then done over the years to really participate in this conversation? And I know 3 years ago, when we signed up to these SDG goals and with our partners from UN Compact, we then said, look, we need to look internally, but we also need to look externally at how we support our clients. And some of the interesting things that we've been able to do is, develop policies and products and services that can support more SMEs to be more included. We've looked at women, we've looked at youth, and these are areas that were underbanked. So, from that perspective, we believe we're on the right journey. But it also speaks to the fact that we are developing more and more products that speak to, intergenerational wealth growth, which is something that the environment and the country really requires us to be able to take on. Apart from that, just making sure that we have the right financial support in terms of providing, credit in the right form. We also look at being able to provide insurance, because we do have an arm of insurance with us as well. We look at making sure that we can impact the environment that we work with in a positive manner. But from a bank's perspective, we're also in a very good place, because as a leading bank, we find ourselves, being able to intentionally include and also encourage other organizations that partner with us to walk this journey, because we can't do it alone. We have fantastic partners that are all spread up in the room. We look for more partners in being able to target those specific areas that we are looking at as far as developing, the financial inclusion conversation across the country. So yes, it's not just a nice thing to do, it's the right thing to do. And we believe that we are on a journey of influence and impact that is positive.
No, fantastic. Rosalind, we were together last month at the summit when KBA was launching its climate-related risk disclosure template. So let's talk about implementation and some of the challenges that the banking industry faces, especially when it comes to implementing or embedding sustainable finance initiatives. And this is now to align with KBA and CBK guidelines that exist.
Great. Thank you so much. This is a testament to what the banking industry is doing in terms of building the sustainable finance roadmap to ensure that the country is more sustainable and advancing the green sustainability agenda. As KBA, we came up with the Sustainable Finance Initiative as a way of supporting banks to create long-term value for the economy, environment, and society. And we came up with an industry-led capacity building program, which has reached roughly around 50,000 bank employees to date. Yeah, and with that, I can say it's probably the largest capacity building program in Africa as a result of our initiative. And what we saw as a challenge was because there was an issue of a knowledge gap. And we're addressing that knowledge gap through these capacity building efforts that we're currently deploying through our e-learning platform. And we continue to build capacity of banks because we do see the sustainability space changing quite rapidly. With transition risk associated with the regulations that are coming into play, like the CBK guidelines on climate-related risk management. So what KBA did, we constituted a working group which was championed by the banks. We had a good number of member banks who came into play in terms of coming up with a TCFD template. That's a task force on climate-related financial disclosures. This template is enabling banks to actually come up with a uniform approach towards disclosing on their climate risk aspects, and also look for ways of addressing issues to do with tapping into opportunities to address climate change. So that's what KBA is doing in terms of just building capacity and helping banks to have a good way of approaching disclosures. And I'm glad Absa is doing this. I think they had just launched their TCFD report, I think, in August. So that is a testament to some of the activities that KBA has done in terms of supporting banks to do that. So we appreciate what Absa has been doing because you're a front runner and you're encouraging other banks to do the same. Thank you.
Fantastic. You know, Melanie, Rosalind talked about a knowledge gap in the finance industry, but there is a financing gap in the climate action space. And, you know, we saw that in the conversations during the climate summit last month, but there's immense opportunity when you think about what financial institutions can come up with when it comes to climate finance products. What more can they do to respond to that?
Thank you so much for the questions. And again, thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here, not only as an Absa partner, but also as a small partner, let's say as a technology partner. And I feel that today, and similarly at the Climate Summit, we are making history in kind of having those discussions and trying to find ways to change the narrative about how our continent and our country is going to mitigate the issues of climate risk. So during that big summit where the Kenyan government didn't only show that Kenya is going to be the leader in that discussion, but Africa is going to be the leader in the economy of tomorrow, I actually wanted to share with you the 3 lessons that I got for the financial industry. The first lesson was how we would be looking at pipeline and business opportunities. The first one, how we're going to reinvent and reimagine credit risk and climate risk. And finally, the third one on how we're going to have to adapt our compliance. So for the pipeline and the business generation, my colleague mentioned it before, we're looking at a $23 trillion opportunity. How are the banks going to grasp that opportunity? What does it mean in terms of segmentation of the industries we're going to look at? Kenya being a leader in tourism, does it mean that ecotourism needs to be a priority? I think those are discussions that are very important that financial institutions need to grasp while developing products, because that means that when it comes to purpose of loans, we're going to look at, are we going to disburse green loans to only green institutions, so companies that are already using electric vehicles, already manufacturing solar panels? Or are we also going to go into the green transition and helping polluting companies, even thinking of oil companies, how they can transition towards cleaner products so that they can transition in this economy of tomorrow? So the first part on designing those products, I think, is really identifying the verticals in the pipeline that they want to serve. The second aspect is, of course, the credit risk. We saw South Africa losing $2 billion last year for climate risk alone. Imagine now having an exposure in all the businesses that lost that money. That means that we need to be proactive as financial institutions into assessing climate risk accurately and ensuring that we have the right data to do so. And that is a very vast discussion, as you mentioned, because it means taking into account new data, maybe new technologies like satellite, changing our algorithm. So that requires a lot of capacity building and a lot of innovation that we see Absa taking the steps towards. And finally, the compliance. I used to work for investors and DFIs that finance banks like Absa, so I'm very aware of the type of reporting, ESG reporting that the sustainability department has to go to. And this is not going to go beyond, let's say, below those requirements. The more we go towards that climate change threat, the more investors regulators, and even governments are going to impose laws and regulations that banks will need to take into account so that in their reporting, in the way they develop products, in the data that they collect from their portfolio, they can comply with those stakeholders. But now that we've learned a lot, what do we do? So I think I just want to end on one solution that I think that Absa is embracing a lot and is going towards that direction is collaboration. CEO Abdi Mohamed has mentioned it. There is such a huge issue with climate change. 1 trillion, like trillions of dollars of financing that needs to be mobilized. We need to collaborate. And that's what we've got the privilege to do thanks to departments like the one of Elizabeth and Susan and the sustainability department from Rufus, where they took a chance in thinking, how can we collaborate with companies like Melanin Capital, who are technology-based and where they can collect data, learn more about all those credit risks, learn more about this pipeline so that they can test fast, fail fast maybe, but also succeed fast to scale. And I believe that those collaborations will set Absa as the leader and also make the difference between the institutions that are going to become number one in the economy of tomorrow or the ones that will be victim of the compliance that is going to go under their heads. So I'm excited to be part of this journey where together we are building the Africa we want tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. No, Dio, let me bring you in here because, Melanie talked about, was it a $23 trillion opportunity when it comes to sustainable finance? And great. But when you think about making that shift, it's also cost intensive. So when you're talking to bankers, for instance, from their perspective, what are some of the practical benefits of going the sustainable way, despite some of the shifts they have to make?
So the very, very clear benefits. I'll use the example in housing. Let's take that as a sector. When you build a residential house that is green, recent results have actually shown us, and this was in South Africa, and now we're actually seeing it in Tanzania as well, where a developer has built a house or a block of flats. It's completely green, and there are sort of 3 main aspects of that building that qualify it and certify it as being green. So it's energy, which is in the power source that is required in the house. Secondly, it's in the efficient use of water and the water system. And then the third aspect was in the material that was used to build. So being very clear around, are you using cement that has a high energy content, or using different materials that, and steel, for example, recycled steel, in order to construct this house. So the end result of this, and after this was certified at green, was as they've gone on, users have come in, the people who are living in the residential buildings and have purchased it, their operating cost of living in these units actually dropped, right? And this dropped to the extent that the cost of buying the house and paying a mortgage, they were saving up to a month's cost of operating throughout. If you take a year of total cost of a standard house, they were actually paying approximately around 11 months. So they were saving 1 month. Now, the result of that work is what Absa in South Africa just then said when they started off this program. This was in 2019. The result of that showed Absa that actually now this developer has created a product that the market wants. The product is selling itself in the market. The construction company then went ahead and continued marketing it as a green product and building more units. Absa then saw the opportunity where any young person who wanted a unit wanted the Baldwin properties. The company is called Baldwin. And it became a signature of that developer, right? Which is the green product that saves me my pocket, the share of wallet on operating, and helps me to have a lot more money in my wallet. That means that I'm a good credit to the bank for the mortgage, right? And so this is what catalyzed the transaction that IFC and Absa just did to make it even bigger. Beyond just working with Baldwin, let's take the results of this and get more developers. So in using and illustrating with that example, it's a direct saving because now the developer in the market is well known, right? The user of the product or the person who purchases it is saving money, right? The credit to the bank, as you spoke about, the credit is better because you know the savings that are coming out. And this is by building green. Now, you can imagine if you make this intentional across all different sectors. When you think about a farmer and agriculture as well, and you do the same thing. When you think about manufacturing, so industrial concerns that need energy security as a major input, and being intentional about that your manufacturing sector or your manufacturing clients, over time, it's a reduction in their operating cost, which makes them a better credit for you and helps them to be able to go out to market to also provide sustainable products. So the whole, and I like what the MD Abdi and also the chairman talked about, is it's by being intentional about it, what you're doing is actually you're reducing your risk in your portfolio by being intentional of building these assets that are more sustainable, or building your capacity to provide more services. But there are three main things that are critical for us to think about, and being part of this launch, and thank you again for inviting IFC, it's very good to see. The first one is the fact that intention. So Absa has come out and has shown and demonstrated and has some research around it, and so they're being intentional about it and speaking to it. The second thing is accountability. So accountability is in all of the systems that the bank has to change in order to be able to help the frontline staff, the back room staff, to understand why they're doing this. And the last one is integrity. And part of that accountability is also putting together this report, because you do not want to be accused of greenwashing, which is saying but not really doing. So the report is very important because it's the integrity of us doing what we say that really will make more people turn and understand and want to have a relationship with Absa. So it is good business, because to the extent that this is integrity coming out of this report, and Absa is saying and doing what it says, you will have more clients and it will build more business. You will build better relationship with developers through that intention that you're doing.
Fantastic. We have to leave it there in the interest of time. Can I get one more round of applause for my panel? Thank you, Rosalind, Melanie, Dio, and Elizabeth. You may take your seats. Thank you so much. So we're about to get into a bit of a game. We put our panelists to the test. We're going to put the audience to the test now, just to look at your knowledge around sustainability issues. So in a few moments, we should project the Kahoot website. So what you need to do, if you don't have a QR code scanning feature on your phone, right there, you'll head over to www.kahoot.it, and then you will tap in the game pin 3078822. So if you can do that in a few, I'll see who is populating the room before we can actually get started. So you scan the QR code if you have that feature on your phone. And if you don't, you'll go to www.kahoot.it. Game pin is 3078822. So far, no one's in the room. Is internet an issue? Fantastic. So just to give you a hint, so we'll be doing questions around the SDGs. You have your cheat sheets here on the boxes near the stage. So if you need to have a look, one person so far, two, great, great, great. And you'll also choose a game name. So I can see Sturdy Wildcat, interesting. Noble Squid, okay. And Wonder Panther, fantastic. Let's keep them coming in. Again, for those of you online, same thing. So you'll scan the QR code or head over to the website and put in the game pin. 3078822. We're coming in. Fantastic. Now we have a limited time to get everyone signed up before we start the question. So make sure you're not locked out. And we have prizes as well at the end of all of this. Space Bison, where are we getting these? Purple Llama, interesting, okay. All right, we're up to 16. All right, so I think we'll give you a few more seconds to come in. I know Wi-Fi is a bit slow, so it's preventing some of us from coming in. And those of you online, also join. We'll have a prize that will get to you as well remotely. 24. All right, so let's see if we can get to at least 30 before we start the questions. Captain B, okay. Diplomatic otter, I hope you are. Golden yak, all right. Adorable moose or mouse, all right. Fearless oryx. And focused fox, all right. So I think we can close the entries. We're at 36, fantastic. And we can head over to the first question. They literally are using every species for these characters. My goodness, I'm using lemur. All right, we're almost at 50. And this is, of course, a way to get our online audience engaged as well as we test your knowledge on sustainability matters. We have about 4 questions that we'll field to you. All right, team, I think we can close the entries now and we can head into the first question. Silly Gator and Magic Macaw. All right, first question, let's take a look. And this relating to the sustainability report launch. First question coming up now. Which of these is not a sustainable development goal? Social stability, zero hunger, decent work, economic environment, or environmental action? Make your choice. 16 seconds to go. Which of these is not a sustainable development goal? So social stability, zero hunger, decent work and economic growth, or environmental action? 1 second to go, and that is that. What's the answer? Social stability is not an SDG. Like I told you, these are your cheat sheets right over here. All right, and then we'll also have the Bronze Raven has taken up that on the scoreboard. Fantastic. Followed by Prairie Camel and Rational Hen. All right, let's go on to the next question. Numbers of SDGs by United Nations are 18, 16 seconds. Is it social environmental disclosure, or environmental social political, or environmental social economic, or economic environmental reporting? 5 seconds to go. And your time is up. The answer is environmental social economic. All right, let's take a look at the scoreboard really quickly. Okay, Smart Buffalo, wow. Followed by Rapid Echidna, I have no idea what animal that is, and Prairie Camel, great. The technology which meets the sustainable development needs is often referred to as, is it sustainable technology, advanced technology, adaptive technology, or appropriate technology? All right, 5 seconds to go. Your time to answer is closing, and it is up. The answer is sustainable technology. Appropriate, I beg your pardon. So most of you got it wrong. Most of you got it wrong. Who are the 3 who got it right? Dr. Rooster. Wow. And Snowy Oryx, as well as Smart Buffalo. All right. So we have one last question to go. What does it mean when a company talks about being carbon neutral? 15 seconds. It will eliminate carbon emissions by switching to renewable resources, or sources rather. It will capture and store atmospheric carbon dioxide generated by factories. Time is up. What is... Okay, finally, most of you actually got it. It will balance out the carbon emissions by reducing or offsetting them. All right, final look at the scoreboard. And who's Smart Buffalo is our winner, followed by Snowy Oryx, and last but not least, Dr. Rooster. Congratulations to all of our winners. Wonderful. So do we have anyone in the room? Is Dr. Rooster in the room? Wonderful. And we have some individuals here who will pass out these gifts. Let me get them to you really quickly. Can I have Christine Sabwa, board member Absa, to join me on stage as we gift Dr. Rooster? Absolutely. Congratulations. Thank you once again. Okay, thank you so much. You take your seat. Was it Snowy Oryx? That was number 2. There we go. Wonderful. Everyone's in the room. Can we get Melanie to come and gift Snowy Oryx? You can come up on stage. Wonderful. Congratulations. And the last was the buffalo, right? Is the buffalo in the room or online? They must be online. Oh, here. Okay, wonderful. So can I get Yusuf Omari, CFO Absa, to join me on stage as we gift the buffalo?
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you so much. And one more round of applause for all of our participants. Job well done. Great. We're just now going to segue into our second panel discussion. And we will be looking at transformation towards a low carbon economy and climate resilient way of life. My panelists joining me now, Judy Njino. She's the Executive Director and focal point of the Global Compact Network Kenya. She has been in that role since 2013. The United Nations Global Compact is the world's largest corporate sustainability initiative with more than 13,000 signatories from 160 countries. Let's give her a round of applause. Joining her is Honorable Nasra Nanda, who's the Chief of Africa, rather the Chair of the Africa Regional Network, as well as the CEO of the Kenya Green Building Society. She has a passion for ESG and believes that doing things sustainably serves us all. Thank you so much for joining us, Nasra. Let's give her a round of applause. And of course, Abdi Mohammed, Chief Executive Officer of Absa Bank Kenya PLC. He has over 28 years of experience in the financial sector and has held various executive positions within Absa Group. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you. Last but not least, Martin Ochieng, who is the Group Managing Director, Sasini PLC Kenya, as well as the Chair of the Global Compact Kenya. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me begin with you, Martin, as you catch your breath. When we're talking about urgent action across industries, there is a huge target of reducing emissions by 30% by 2030. And we also want to reach net zero emissions by 2050. Talk about some of the decarbonization efforts that Sasini is taking, for instance, at this moment.
Thank you, Vicky. First of all, congratulations to Abdi and your team for a job well done. I think this is your second report, if I'm not wrong, so it's nice to see you from a UN global perspective, a global compact perspective, to see you continue on this journey and to bring the energy into your new job. Well done and congratulations. Let me answer that question in a very summarized way. Let me give some global perspectives first. These goals were launched in 2015, and we targeted them to be achieved by 2030. We are halfway in that journey, and we are only achieving, only 15% of these goals are on target. 1-5. I'm keeping quiet so that it sinks in. We are doing so badly. And so we need to accelerate our efforts and make sure that what we do for the next 7.5 years takes us to those targets by 2030. What that means is we need a lot more deliberate approach, like Absa has taken. In Sasini, we say intentional, and stop talking and start doing. which is something we've been talking about for a very long time, both at Sasini's level and more importantly at the United Nations Global Compact. So Sasini is a 72-year-old agricultural business. It's the biggest agricultural setup in East Africa. We are involved in the growing, processing, marketing and exporting of tea, coffee, macadamia and avocado. We are in agriculture. And as Dio said, we are one of that sort of like sector is seen as one of the biggest drivers of emissions, especially on the climate side of things. And so, but being in agriculture calls for us to be sustainable anyway by the nature of our business. And so for 72 years, we've been doing these things. The problem is we were doing them by default, not knowing that we were actually being sustainable. About 4 years ago, we made a deliberate effort to start doing them by default and chose very cleverly around the SDGs that we wanted to focus on. And those were centered around the key thematic areas of human rights and the respect for that, good labor practice, protection of the environment, and most importantly, which a lot of people don't talk about in this subject, is driving the mantra of anti-corruption. And so under those 4 buckets, the UN principles, they call the 10 principles that drive what actions corporates need to take to achieve these goals. And under those 10 principles are the 17 development goals, the sustainable development goals. And so it's really nice to see this becoming more and more knowledgeable in corporates and in companies like Absa and ourselves, and the partnership that we have with them in driving these goals is really critical. But there are challenges. If we are achieving only 15% at the halfway level, there's something that we need to do to accelerate these programs and to get us going forward. So I'll talk about Sasini specifically. We have chosen to focus on 5 key areas to accelerate our effort and our contribution to the achievement of the SDG goals. Those are focused around this topic of water stewardship, so supplying, as you can imagine, because we are one of the biggest landowners in the country, we are neighbored by communities around us who form part of our supply chain. And so some of them are in deep remote areas like in Nyamira and Ibomet countries where water is a problem. And so we've taken water stewardship and provision of clean, potable water as one of our key drivers there. Number 2 is gender equity. And we say equity and not equality because we want to go beyond the numbers game. And equity talks to equipping that part of your employment base to do better because they're probably coming from a disadvantaged position, closing the gender pay gap, equal pay for equal value of work, irrespective of gender, and all those initiatives around there. Linked to the gender mantra is living wage. And what we do around paying people a decent amount to live well. So we are moving away from minimum wage, which is often not enough, to a living standard wage. So that's a big drive as well. Number 4 is a big factor for us, and that's climate action. So what work do we do around environmental protection, clean energy, net zero, and we believe we are net positive. In fact, this year we're going to go into scientific-based measurements to prove that. When we look anecdotally, we think we are positive, and Dr. Mungai is looking at me there, wondering what I'm talking about. But when we do measure, if we find that's the case, we want to see what do we do with that positivity in our carbon footprint. And then number 4, and this is where Absa comes in, number 5, is partnerships and financing for these initiatives. And so we can't do this on our own. As good as we are at what we do, our efforts only mean so much because we're just this one company. And so we are looking for partnerships where we can work with other organizations to help us to scale the effort and make this impact even bigger. That scaling is twofold. 1 is in growth in number of people committing the Sustainable Development Goals, and 2 is sharing the impact of what that work does. And that's what Absa is doing today. Reporting is one thing, and we don't report these things so that we brag and we showcase what we are doing. We report so that we share the impact. We share the work that is being done. Because if you're not doing anything, what are you reporting? You can't report nothing. So it's absolutely critical that we applaud guys who are reporting, and as PLCs, Absa and Sasini PLCs, we are required to report by regulatory law. But that's not why we do it. We do it because we've done so much that we feel we should share to encourage others to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Abdi, let me bring you in here because Martin talked about how, since they began in Sasini, they incorporated sustainable practices unintentionally and then now made it deliberate. From a banking perspective, what are some climate prevention interventions that the financial institutions can start tapping into now?
Thank you very much. I think, first of all, that 15% is a very sobering statistic for all of us. Despite all the good work that is being done, definitely there is a lot more that we need to be doing. But I think if I come back to the financial sector, we've come from a history where you did your financial planning and reporting, and that was the core thing, and then you said, oh, what should we do about sustainability? Almost as an afterthought. To today, where this is a critical part of the strategic process itself, that it is, as the chairman was saying earlier, primary to what we do, and it's an integral part of the strategic cycle. I think with regards to climate action, there are different levels. There is the level within the organization itself as Absa, and there are key targets there that we've set for ourselves. The PS has left, and he was talking about the tree planting initiative. Absa has set for itself, partnering with others, a target of 10 million trees by 2025. And we are well underway on that journey. There's a lot of work that has already gone in. There's our buildings, branches and head office buildings, and looking at energy efficiency within our own buildings as well. And there's a lot of work that has been done on that front. There is the whole people and cultural element of it, and I think Chairman spoke to that when he was speaking, about ensuring that at all levels of the organization, there is that shared understanding and shared objective of delivering against this. And then as a bank, you go into our most significant area of impact, which is the impact through our financing of the economy, dealing with large corporates, small businesses. What we do in that space is also very critical. And often we talk about the Safaricoms, etc., but I get really inspired by small businesses that are very much aware of this and are doing this work across the country, especially businesses led by young people. There is a generational component to it. There is a greater understanding for the need for sustainability. And in many ways, people of my age and above need to be learning from the young people out there that are really driving an agenda around climate and climate action. So we believe overall that the financial sector has a big role to play. We play both an influencing role, but also a direct role in terms of how we finance, what we don't finance, who we partner with from a funding perspective. So a lot of work to be done, and we are motivated by what we have done so far as a financial sector.
Absolutely. Judy, let me bring you in here. We heard about that 15% of targets met, abysmal, which Abdi had already called it. But let me come to you in terms of what the Global Compact Kenya is doing to actually keep companies accountable. We know COP27 African business leaders made the climate statement, and to begin transitions in their plans. Are you seeing that, and how are you keeping them accountable?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question, Victoria. And allow me to start by first of all congratulating Absa. I think when they launched their commitments back in 2020, we were part of that process and really supporting you to think through your materiality. And so to be here today to see you launch your first sustainability report, I think it's a very important milestone and something that we at the UN Global Compact truly appreciate in terms of the level of accountability and transparency that we are seeing in the private sector here in Kenya. So coming back to the UN Global Compact, for those of you who might not know, it is the world's largest corporate sustainability initiative that has a mandate to work with the global private sector to be a force for good. And I think it's very well aligned to the theme of the event here today. And of course, we advance a set of 10 principles around 4 key issue areas touching on human rights, environmental stewardship, labor standards, as well as anti-corruption. But we also have a bigger mandate to mobilize the global business community to advance and contribute to the sustainable development goals. And so looking at the agenda that we are focusing on today around climate action, the UN Global Compact back in 2022 decided to put together what we are calling the Africa Business Leaders Coalition. and it is a coalition that was formed to elevate the voice of the African private sector as well as the African business leaders on the global stage to discuss issues that are priority to the continent and that are also critical to driving our own development here. And so this coalition started with about 57 companies that represent about $200 billion in revenue and employ close to 1 million people. And in their first year, the coalition, which I'm very happy Martin and Sassini is a part of, decided to focus on climate action. Of course, we appreciate that there are very many issues that affect Africa as a continent, but climate is one of those that is playing out in our society today. And so they decided to come together and put together a set of commitments that they themselves would be at the forefront in helping really champion their own climate actions. And this really focused on issues around mitigation, adaptation and resilience, as well as putting together their just transition plans. And of course, this is in appreciation that while Africa is not really responsible for the worst effects of the changing climate that we're experiencing, we as a continent actually have enormous potential to provide solutions. So 1 year in, this coalition has actually been on the forefront in really delivering some concrete actions around how they are measuring, their emissions, but critically putting in place plans that are going to be able to help them really address those. So within the UN Global Compact, we are working with these companies as well as our 23,000 plus participants across the globe to understand more practically beyond the commitments that they make around climate action. How do you actually put that into practice? How do you operationalize that within your business strategies and operations? And so we have a number of programs, platforms, campaigns that are available to the private sector to help them translate those commitments into action. And if I can just mention perhaps 2 of them, and I think Martin has said it, and Abdi as well, that we actually are not on track to deliver the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. And as such, it means that organizations that, like the Global Compact, who are in the business of supporting private sector, we had to quickly redesign our programming to help companies not just set commitments, but actually set ambitious targets to help us inch closer to this target by the year 2030. So we have designed programs such as the Climate Ambition Program, which I'm sure Absa has already taken up, that support companies with that technical know-how on how to actually set emission reduction targets based on science. And it's important to note this, that we have very many efforts that are being put out there by private sector, but we must ground this on science. Because these are the pathways that have been determined and established to help us really reverse the worst impacts of the changing climate. So we are working, of course, with these companies to be able to translate very technically how to put together these emission reduction plans, as well as to report on progress. And so in line with the event today, I think issues of accountability and transparency will become the new currency as far as sustainability is concerned. And so it's no longer going to be enough to just say you're doing all these things. Stakeholders out there will be demanding, can you verify? I think there are claims around greenwashing, and so it's critical that we also align a lot of our efforts with established, mechanisms that can help you also verify as well as prove to your stakeholders that the claims that you're putting out there, you can actually back them up.
No, absolutely. That's what this is all about. Nazar, let me bring you in as we shift gears slightly to talk about achieving sustainable communities and cities. So from where you sit at the Green Building Society, what are some factors that the finance industry can consider when it comes to meeting that need?
Thank you so much. Firstly, thank you everyone for your time today, and congratulations to the team at Absa. In particular, I want to congratulate Rufus, Charles, and Fred, who I closely work with at the KGBS and as part of our initiatives. Thank you. So I think I'll start off by saying 2 things that I really want to point out. Before we have sustainable markets, the fundamental things that people need is food and shelter. That's the only way then you can think about a life of dignity, right? So in this regard, to give you an understanding of our situation in Africa, which is unique, Africa has a rapidly growing population. We're expected to be 1.6 billion people by 2030. A lot of those people will be under the age of 20. Those two things mean that we will need to create jobs. We'll also need to have spaces to house these people, because a lot of them, fortunately or unfortunately, will be flooding towards the urban and peri-urban spaces, which means that this will create a problem or an opportunity for businesses and government to house and create these jobs. Now, against that backdrop, I'd like to say the built environment contributes to 39% of CO2 emissions. So ignoring the built environment is silly on our part, because that means already you're handicapping yourself by saying the 40% that you need is not on the table. So you're only working with the 60%. By putting the built environment on the table, you are saying that this is a sector that you can work with to rapidly change the climate action conversation, because it touches on people, it touches on the planet, and it touches on profits. And additionally, it touches on purpose, because it also influences the government's affordable housing agenda. So in this regard, from a financing perspective, I'd like to echo what Mr. Abdi said, that the finance industry is not just a direct impact space for the climate conversation, but also an influencer. Why? Because the developing world is a reactive market. We respond. One of the ways that the finance industry can help governments respond better is by then saying, if we see you doing the right thing, which is the smart thing, we are willing to provide incentives with respect to sustainable, affordable housing projects, for example, energy efficient projects. And that then tilts the market, because that's when now you have people responding to that, because now they know they're going to have some sort of incentives. And I think Dale talked about a particular developer in South Africa. That's also happening in Kenya. Mivida, who's also a KGBS member, recently secured 1 billion shillings from the International Housing Corporation for their green affordable housing project. And what that is, signaling to the market, that these developers who are taking that additional step to invest in energy efficiency and the green certification could then attract a different brand of investor. That means you're creating opportunities for yourself to get a premium investor to work with you in your projects. And then second, I think what's super important is we need to understand that the built environment is actually an ecosystem of opportunities. So if you're to look at Arboretum, this is very key to Nairobi's ecosystem, because it's an urban forest, and an urban forest counts as an urban sink to the city. So if we look at how then these urban sinks can contribute to the assets of a city, you're saying that carbon finance is a possibility for Nairobi. You're also saying that for the Ministry of Environment, the awareness around seed planting, tree planting, forest protection, that comes in as an opportunity for investors to now look at that as an opportunity to support Nairobi. I'd like to stop there for now, but what I will say is, I think in the past, what has been a challenge is sectors sell themselves in silos, which I think has been the drawback. I think if we realize at the bottom of everything, what is the problem we're all trying to solve? If we can confirm that it's the same problem, then all of us in our respective sectors are actually complementing solutions to a problem, which all of us are trying to work on together. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nazra. Certainly the need to consolidate efforts when it comes to climate action, that is all the time we have. But thank you so much to Martin, Nazra, Abdi, and Judy. You may take your seats. Can you give them one more round of applause? So in just a few, we'll be hearing from some beneficiaries from the Absa Ready to Work program. But before we do, I think it's important and imperative that we realize why we are here today. I want you to watch this video, which is essentially a letter to our future. Take a look.
I grew up as a lonely guy, just me and my grandmother. My mother passed on when I was just joining high school. This is the only memory I have of my mom. On the same week, my granddad, a father to that home, passed on. It was very difficult. I am Moses Ituma, a second-year student at the University of Kabianga, courtesy of the Absa Scholarship Fund from Kimilili constituency in Bungoma County. High school education was not quite easy because we are not financially stable. I had to speak to teachers so that they could allow me at school.
Mtoto huyu Moses ni mtoto wa mtoto yangu. Babu yake alikufa 1 week na mtoto mama yake anakufa. Mimi mwenyewe sikukuwa nachiweza, nilikuwa nimechanganyikiwa.
I went to the university. The Higher Education Loan Board linked me with the Absa Scholarship Fund. I shared my story with them. They decided to fund me.
Ati mama, watu Absa wamenichukua mimi. Hata nilikuwa karibu nikaanguka chini nikasema Moses usiniambie. Nikachanganyikiwa. Lakini nikaamuka nikashukuru Mungu sana.
It is beyond scholarship. Absa have given me a study laptop. They have given me upkeep money enough to support me at school and also support my grandmother. Now she's comfortable. Absa, you have wiped tears out of the face of a boy from an interior village. A boy who could not imagine of getting out of a mad house with his grandmother. Thank you, Absa.
How lucky we are to call this beautiful continent home. Yes, this paradise is not without peril, but just look at what we have to work with. In the years to come, this responsibility will fall to you, and all its potential will be your possibility. So we promise to do all we can today to share all our knowledge and skills, to ensure you inherit a just society, to give you access to the finance and resources you need to build the best Africa possible. But none of that will matter if we don't protect this beautiful continent we call home. And so we pledge to use every ounce of our creativity, our ingenuity, our tenacity, all 37,000 of us, shoulder to shoulder with millions of you, to bring the most important possibility of our time to life. So your world, dear tomorrow, is shaped by the power of zero.
The one time that zero actually makes sense. So before we go into the sustainability report highlights, I told you earlier that, of course, Absa Kenya has the Ready to Work program. And the goal behind all of that is to train 1 million youth. And this is by 2025. So far, they have managed to train over 231,000 young people. I think that deserves a round of applause. And I'd like to invite two of the beneficiaries, Abela Nedisu, who is here with us, as well as Samuel Oriwo, who will share their stories. Let's give them a round of applause. Wonderful. So Abela, please share with us your journey so far.
Good morning.
My name is Nedi Suabella. I am a beneficiary of the Absa scholarship program and the Ready to Work program. I got the scholarship while in my second year of university at Kirinyaga University, pursuing Bachelor of Commerce Marketing major. And out of that, after my graduation, I did the Ready to Work program, which is a program that helps you get skills that prepare you for the corporate world. And out of that program, I was able to intern in the bank for 9 months intermittently. Currently, I work in the SME desk supporting the women in business and business club. I'm very grateful to Absa for helping me further my education and scale my career.
Fantastic. Samuel, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning. My name is Samuel Oriwo. As a beneficiary of Absa Bank scholarship and Absa Ready to Work program. So I'm here actually to justify our purpose, that is empowering Africa's tomorrow together, one story at a time. So myself, I want to say my first story is being sponsored by Absa Bank to ensure that I study and graduate. First story. Second story, part of that story is just before I could graduate, I got an internship opportunity with Absa Bank, and that is the second story. So how are we empowering Africa's tomorrow? I was there in the past, just in the village, without any support, but Absa came in because Absa saw a tomorrow in me, and that is why I'm here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Warm round of applause. Samuel and Abella, you may take your seats. Certainly they saw a tomorrow in you. Perfect segue into the sustainability report highlight. I'd like to invite Mr. Charles Wakabi, Head of Sustainability, Communications and Corporate Relations, to take us through this segment of the program. Let's give him a hearty round of applause as he makes his way up.
Good mornings. Habari zenu. I think we've been seated for a long time. Can I invite you to just stand up, you stretch. You know, the sun is beginning to come up. So today we are here, and it's fine, you can feel free to remain standing. Today we are here to talk about an important conversation that's about sustainability. And where we talk about sustainability, we talk about today and the decisions and the actions we take today, and how those decisions and actions are impacting the kind of tomorrow that we will have. So let me tell you a quick story. I've got 2 children so far. I'm still in pursuing sustainable development, right? But there's this song that I sing in my house every day. My firstborn is 4 years old. My secondborn is 2 years old. So every day I get home, we have to sing this song, and I know most of you here know it. Baby shark do 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 do. See, you guys know it, right? Yeah. So why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this story because when we raise our children, and I'm within this generation that's accused of raising children through technology. When we raise our children, every time I look at my 2, and I'm looking at their eyes, and the thing that is in my mind is, how am I bringing these kids up? How am I providing for them? Are they going to the right schools? Do they have what they need? But today, I think the invitation that I want to extend to you is the question of, so a lot of those questions is about what I'm giving the child, how I'm enabling the child. But I think we need to have a conversation about the actions that we are taking ourselves as the grown-ups, right? And what that gift indirectly is to our children when they grow up in the future. So when the chairman was talking, I think he finished with this statement that said, let's not give our children's children a reason to ask why we didn't do the right thing today, right? Chairman, I think your children's children are equivalent to my children today, right? So this question is not prophetic or far-fetched. It is happening today. Now, moving on quite quickly. So I know we've been talking a long time. I'll take just a few minutes, give you quick highlights of the report that we are presenting today. But I think it's important that we set the right scene. At Absa, and I think the gentleman who was here did a very good job of talking about our purpose. Our purpose is empowering Africa's tomorrow together, one story at a time. Now, at the right at the center of that purpose talks about tomorrow. And as I began by saying, what tomorrow will look like is a direct result of what we do today. And so that's the basis upon which we've been walking this journey as an institution, the journey of asking ourselves, what are the actions we are taking today? Where are we investing in today? Who are we supporting today? What are we doing today, and how will that ensure that Africa's tomorrow is a sustainable tomorrow, is a successful tomorrow? And so on the back of everything for us, when we talk about our sustainability framework, therefore, lands and sits is centrally anchored on this purpose statement, empowering Africa's tomorrow together, one story at a time. How do we do this? So we do this through the way we do business. In other words, our values. And I just want to talk to these specific two ones. That one is called stewardship. And stewardship is really how are we handling our resources today? How are we handling what is in our hands today? And how is that lending itself to what we want to build tomorrow? And then, these communities are suffering. So inclusion, therefore, becomes an important thing in the way we make decisions in the products that we serve to the market. And so, when we looked at the three pillars of ESG, so when we talk about environment as an institution, we say we are committed to managing climate risks and opportunities in a way that helps us to continue doing our business today, but also in a way that takes care of that tomorrow that we've all been talking about. When we talk about society, which is what I've just mentioned, here we are talking about investing in the consistent and continuous well-being of our communities. So that this thing in the consistent and continuous well-being of our communities. So that these communities from these communities where we will source our next customers. It is where we will source our next employees. It is where we will source employers for our children. Right? So this is not something that we can take away from the business. Governance. Governance is something that we cannot fail to talk about, especially when you look at a financial institution. We take people's money every day. We need to be operating with the right structures of governance, corporate governance, to ensure that we are doing the right thing at all times. So integrity, care, these things are extremely important to the way that we are doing our business. And then this last bit here that you see on the slide that talks about advocacy. And here is the point. Everybody in this room today has been nodding and clapping hands when we've spoken about the different initiatives, especially as the panels were going on. But the truth of the job is that there is a lot that we need to do out there for the people who are not already in the choir like you guys, right? Who are out there, who we need to preach this gospel to, who we need to convert to begin to doing this job the right, to begin to living life the right way, doing your job the right way, running organizations the right way. Therefore, advocacy is an important thing. So what are we trying to build? We are trying to build an active force for good, that is Absa, an active force for good that is every day driving Kenya's sustainable future, Africa's sustainable future. All right? So we've been walking this journey for a long time. The inception of our sustainability agenda was synonymous with the inception of the new brand. So at some point, 2018, 2019, with the challenge and the leadership of the board, management teams, collaboratives sat together, began to dream about what our sustainability journey would look like. And it's been many milestones since then. We published a set of 13 commitments. If you scan the reports out there, you will get a bigger detail to the sustainability report that we are launching today. And within this report, you will find the 13 commitments that we talk about, and they cut across the areas of environment, the areas of social, the areas of good governance. And so this is what we did in 2019, 2020, began to think through what are the core priorities that we are going to be executing within a 5-year journey. We prepared a strategy. The strategy has been approved by the board. The strategy has been presented to the market. It's actually in a report that we published in 2020. And after that, it's just been growth and growth. I think the important point to make here is that when most corporates began this journey, it was more from a best practice perspective, right? But what we see increasingly today is that there is regulatory pressure, and there is, which says that the global environment, the global community is leading us towards an environment where whether you like it or you don't like it, we will try and get you to do business in an ethical, in a responsible, in a sustainable manner. Now that we've spoken, and I think it was Martin who said we need to move from speaking to doing, and therefore, as you present these reports, they are only reports of what has been done. So I just want to spend maybe 4 minutes giving you a sense of some of the achievements that we made in this journey that, as I said, we started in 2020. So when you look at our portfolio, we are a financial institution, and so central to our sustainability agenda is sustainable finance. Today, when we looked at our book, we see about 20% of our book today being potentially eligible as sustainable finance. That may equate to something approximately around 60 billion. You heard from our managing director when he was speaking earlier that we've got a broad ambition to fast track this growth, to accelerate this growth towards a figure that's double that, about 120 billion in the next 3 years. And we're going to do this working across the different sectors that different people have talked about here. Energy, renewable and clean energy is an important one. Energy efficiencies is an important one. Climate smart agriculture is an important one, specifically for agriculture. Green building, as Nasra said, green buildings and responsible constructions of industries and cities. These are specific sectors that we are going to be consistently looking at. From a people perspective, and this I think is a pride moment for the bank. By the way, Absa was the first listed institution in the country to achieve a 50-50 gender split at the board. Thank you very much. But this is something that we've consistently, been building up on. If you look at the institution today, we are maybe one of the ones that can proudly say we've got a 50-50 gender split across all our employees, right? And it's not just, at junior levels. When you look at our leadership, and this is from branch management levels all the way to the board, we've got a 46-54 split in gender, which is something that we should, something that we take pride in. And maybe we should recognize Madam Mombi Kahindo, who leads our people agenda, for doing a great job there. A great job that has also been recognized by externals. 2 years in a row, we've been recognized as a top employer in the market. Just a month ago, the Federation of Kenyan Employees, Federation of Kenya Employers recognized Absa, for being best in HR practices and industrial relations. And I think another important thing is, what are we building for the future? And the world in itself is going through a series of disruption. And so future skills become an important thing. This is an important agenda when we look at our people. Today, 100% of every Absa employee has been exposed to one or other future skills. It's a big investment that our people and culture department has been making, and a commitment that looks into the future. When you think about our community, so I think the two younger than me people who stood here earlier and talked about Ready to Work and talked about scholarships, this is a pride point for the bank. We've empowered over 247,000 young people with this very rich program that we call Ready to Work. Ready to Work is a life skills program, is an employability skills program that helps young people who are transitioning from either college or university to the world of work, whether that world of work is employment or entrepreneurship. And so this program gives you certain skills such as money skills, work skills, people skills, entrepreneurial skills, and so far and so forth. And this is a live program that we go updating day and day. So we've added such things as coding, as data analytics, things that are relevant for the future, for the future of work. You might have seen in an earlier video about the work that we're doing around digital literacy. We're in a journey of installing 72 computer labs across 72 schools, and this is just the first phase of this program. And the way we select these schools, we go for mass impact. So we're going to schools with an average of 600 to 1,000 students, so that the impact is there. So we do estimate that about 72,000 young students are going to be exposed to a digital world because of the work that we are doing here. Another one around this, we've made it important that as you're being onboarded as an Absa supplier, you come sharing the same mindset as we do. So it is mandatory that 100% of any new supplier that is onboarded on our supplier list undertakes an ESG training program, so that you are aware of what we stand for and what we want to build. Elizabeth was here earlier talking about SMEs, women in business. We all know what SME represents as a sector for our economy as a country, and for Africa at large. This is a critical sector even to our own growth ambitions. We've trained about 34,000 entrepreneurs on different kind of skills that would help them elevate the growth of their businesses. If I just may touch on the area of environment for a little bit as I come towards the close. We've made a commitment to plant and grow 10 million trees by 2025. We've done slightly above 1 million. We've got partnerships now in place with different organizations, including the likes of Safaricom. Sasini will be coming to you. We do think that agroforestry is an area that we should spend more time on. And we're working with different partners to fast track this. And 10 million is just where we want to start. But we do think that this is an important commitment that we have to keep accelerating towards. Nasra was here, CEO of Kenya Green Building Society. All our head offices are IFC EDGE certified as green buildings. That's a significant achievement for the bank, and we are working towards replicating these across all our branch network. But much more importantly, working with our customers that are in the construction space, customers that are personal customers taking out mortgages and such facilities to really advance growth of our participation in this green construction and responsible construction space. We do have a commitment internally to be a net zero organization by 2040. This is an ambitious one. This is maybe one of the ones that, that we have to do a lot more work, a lot more learning. We've started making disclosures on our Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. We are doing studies on how we should, begin talking about Scope 3 financed emissions, and so far and so forth. So that this begins to give us a sense then of how we mitigate, how we compensate, and how we begin working towards this bold ambition of being net zero by that time. And then I talked about our rebranding journey, and one of the things that we started doing back then that we have continued to do to date. Every single of an Absa billboard you see out there, for instance, when that billboard is done its work, we take it down. We work with recyclers. We convert these into school bags. We give school-going children backpacks that they used to carry for children. They used to carry their books. Circular economy is a big deal for us, the way we are managing our electronic waste, the way we are managing our general waste. This is an important pillar of focus for us, and a piece of focus that you might expect to see us do a lot more in. Now, so with that background, therefore, what does the future look like for us? I think we started at this place where I said we are a financial institution, and so sustainable finance is our mainstay when we talk about sustainability. So that's an area that you're going to see us accelerating towards. We are going through the legal process of setting up a foundation which will help us elevate the way we do our community investments, the way we do our partnerships to scale the impact of the works that we are doing within that space. I've spoken about our net zero ambitions and how we just continually enhance the efficiencies in our own resource management. Governance and controls, again, I said trust is our license to operate as a financial institution. This is something that we can never let go as Absa. And then, you know, when you look at the constitution of this room, we've got all and sundry. We had we had and we still have government representatives, private sector, non-government. So this area of strategic partnerships, which is also an important SDG 17, remains a critical focus area for us. We extend an invitation to all of you in this room. If you have ways that you feel we can collaborate together to make bigger and bolder impact, please let's have conversations. I think this is one area where we say we can compete on many other things, but this is one area of collaboration, and we open our arms to all of you to keep doing that. And then, you know, I've talked about biodiversity restoration, and this is an area that we will continue, you know, focusing on and improving the kind of attention that we are giving towards this area. So, this in a nutshell gives you a sense of what it is we are saying we have achieved so far, but much more importantly, the opportunity that we are seeing when we look ahead, you know, the areas that we feel we can do better, the areas where we'd like and desire very much your partnership in, so that we can continuously enhance, you know, and accelerate our participation in this space. And much more importantly, so that my children that I spoke about at the beginning will not find a world or they will wonder what happened to the guys who were here before. I learned of an interesting statistic the other day. You will hear a lot of songs about dinosaurs if you're within the stage of parenting that I am, and I know many of you are, yeah. But I read an interesting statistics. About 20 years ago, there were 200,000 lions in the world. Okay. 2022, the statistic that I read said there are only 23,000 lions in the world. 23,000, right? So now, I hear of these animals that were called dinosaurs that may or may not have existed. I don't know, it's a story, right? It is very possible that your children's children will never see a lion. It is possible that they will hear stories of animals like those that lived, right? Guys, it's real, it's urgent. We can't sit on our laurels. We can't be business as usual. We have to mainstream this conversation, and we have to do it the right way. So let me leave you with this interesting quote that I read last night. If somebody is there, you can move on to the next slide so that we all read it together. Right, so the quote says, "Let everyone sweep in front of his or her own door, and the whole world will be clean." Okay? So when you leave here today, please don't be bothered about the estate. Just care about what you can do, right? What can you do, you yourself as an individual in the role you hold in the organizations that you are representing? What can we do today to ensure that the whole estate is clean? So look at your neighbor and tell them, sweep your front yard. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Charles. Let's give him one more round of applause. We all will be paying keen attention to our front doors from here on out. At this juncture, we heard a lot of ambitious goals: planting 10 million trees by 2025, training 1 million youth by 2025, going net zero by 2040. It's a lot. But Absa Kenya has put out that accountability tool in the form of this sustainability report. So shall we unveil it? All right. Shall we have the countdown on the screen? Thank you. There we have it, ladies and gentlemen, the official unveiling of the Absa Kenya Sustainability Report 2022. Some key targets that were brought out during the highlights by Charles in terms of what the company seeks to do. Already 231,000 young people have been trained under the Ready to Work program. And of course, increasing diversity in the supply chain, focusing on women, on youth, and persons living with disabilities. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. One more round of applause. And at this juncture, I'd like to call on the chairman of Absa Kenya to join us on stage, Mr. Charles Munene, as we officially, Mushene, I beg your pardon, as we officially launch the report. I beg your pardon, sir. Can we give him a round of applause? As well as the CEO, Mr. Abdi. Can you please join us on stage as well? Mr. Martin Ochieng, in your capacity as Global Compact Kenya Chair, thank you. Madam Christine Sabwa, as well as Mr. Yusuf Omari, kindly join us on stage. Thank you. Wonderful, and we should be having that report coming our way. Thank you, Charles. As we commemorate this momentous occasion, putting forth the goals that Absa Kenya has for the coming years. There we are. Wonderful. Photographers, let's get in place as we capture this moment. Great. The 2022 Absa Bank Kenya Sustainability Report. If we can come center stage. Wonderful. And all smiles as we hold up that report. Thank you. Wonderful. Congratulations once again to Absa Bank Kenya for this momentous occasion. Wonderful. Photographers, we're happy? Great. I'll call on the CEO and the chair to remain on stage as we have the Absa leadership join them to also take a photo with the report. Absa leadership present, kindly make your way up on stage. Wonderful. Congratulations once again. Key indicators that Absa has shared in this report. These are the individuals that will make it happen in the next couple of years. So far, over 303,000 trees have been planted under the goal of planting 10 million trees by 2025. Thank you so much. And indulge us once more, Mr. Chairman and CEO. Judy and Gino, can you please join them on stage? As we also have some representation from the UN Global Compact Kenya as well. Fantastic. Thank you. We can have you center. Wonderful. Thank you. Wonderful. And last but not least, the panelists who are still with us. Panelists who are still with us, kindly make your way on stage. The CEO and chair, kindly remain on stage. Thank you so much for your patience and indulgence. Thank you. All the panelists from the first and second panel join the MD and chair on stage. Thank you so much. We need to get the gender balance here. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Rosalind. Fantastic. Thank you all. You may take your seats. Much appreciated. One more round of applause for the Absa Bank Kenya Sustainability Report. Thank you all for joining us. We are heading into the afternoon. I think food is still being served. But also, just a quick announcement, as you make your way out, there will be some tree seedlings that the team will be giving out. Now, please ensure you actually plant these. If you have an apartment, don't store it somewhere. we need to actually see that sustainability is being carried out. But thank you so much. It's been an absolute honor and pleasure to be your MC and host this morning at the Absa Bank Kenya Sustainability Report launch. I'm Victoria Rubadiri. Have a lovely rest of the day.